Hi everyone, this is Roxanne with System One, and today we have a pretty big treat for you guys. We are going to be talking with five lovely people from Joulé, which is our life sciences division, and we're going to be talking about their efforts and the impact that they've had in the development of a COVID-19 vaccine. So with me right now, I have Shamika Randolph, and we're just going to dive straight in. So for your workday, from normal to pandemic, that must have had a massive change.
Yes.
So what's an average day for you now?
Typically I'm allowed to stay in the bed a little later than I would get up in the mornings generally. But once I get up in the mornings, I come nicely into my dining room, and that's kind of my work area.
Yeah.
And get ready, check emails, and then when the day's over, just pack everything up and go to my living room. It's kind of staying in the house all day, trying to, live the stay-at-home life is what I call it.
Actually, fairly similar. Well, for me it is because, I miss the face-to-face. Well, all right, so maybe it's not similar. I have not been traveling a lot. One of the things I like to do is be a part of the process and be, meet the teams, talk about where they're going, how they're getting there, what we as an organization or I can do as a leader to help them get there. So I really do miss the face-to-face. Not traveling a lot has been awesome. I don't miss that, but it's part of the job, and you don't realize what a wear and tear it is till you're not doing it anymore. So that's been nice. But we're really using a lot of the technology, whether it's Zoom, Skype, or Teams, and have been able to get all our salespeople to sell a little differently. So we're interacting a lot. We have weekly sales calls virtually. We have one-on-ones virtually. So it's been, a lot has changed. But to me, it's like the bell. You have to stand. You have to answer the bell, right? So you stand tall and you just keep marching and try to keep the team together from a leadership standpoint. So. There are a lot of different things, but when it's like you're able to shift when you really believe in the principles of what the organization is doing, from System One to Joulé, right? So we believe in service with every fiber of our being, right? That's what we stand for, and we also have our goals internally that we need to hit, and when a pandemic comes, nobody's ready for it, but you just have to read the landscape and try to position the organization in the best way possible. And then it's a time when you really I found you just need to be very supportive, right? It's not about beating people up for no reason, and that's not our philosophy anyways, but it's about being even more supportive and understanding and empathetic to what our team members are going through. And in turn, I think the waterfall effect is that they treat people who they're interacting with the same way. It's like we're not, we're reaching out to potentially new clients or past clients, and it's more of a, what can we do to help you, right? We've collected information about how other companies are handling this right now, whether they're internal or they need people to come in, like what their protocols are. We can share some of that information, obviously without mentioning our client's names, but so we've positioned ourselves as a resource just to help, and that's and really, if we do it for the authentic reasons, which is to really help, good things happen. That's what we believe in.
So for those unfamiliar with Joulé, can you give us a 30,000-foot overview of what you guys do?
Absolutely. We are a clinical and life science workforce solutions organization. And we live in the clinical and scientific recruiting space, right? I'd say 85% of our business is what we call pure staff augmentation, which is direct hire, contract, and contract to hire. We have four pillars, and that is our lead pillar. But the other three ones are very strong. It's our consulting group, our Yeah, it's our consulting group, it's our equipment services group, and then we also have a managed services group that we rely on. So we have 4 pillars, and we live in those lanes. And it's you know, something that makes us successful, we think, is that we really focus on what we're doing at that time, and you know, being aware of the bigger picture of clinical and life science organizations.
Very cool. I'm actually curious about the equipment services because I've done so many, you know, all the skill marketing emails. I'm the one that does that. So I'm just curious how big of a part of the business that is.
So they're a key part of the business. Most of their business is in the Philadelphia and New Jersey area, and they do testing, validation of basically any sort of lab equipment. So like a Johnson & Johnson, a Catalent. We have technicians on site, and it's really a great piece of our business. The way we try to position ourselves is to be able to go into any sort of pharmaceutical, you know, development or company, and go in there and say, listen, you know, we can service you in these 4 key ways. And that really separates us from the competition, the ability to come in there and be embedded. But yeah, the key thing is that each pillar, you know, is focused on that pillar, right? Like laser focused on delivery of whatever that initiative is.
Part of working with Joulé, why do you think the culture is so key to what you guys are doing right now and how you're performing?
I think we're kind of, my branch in Edison, we're a tight-knit group, and our communication is fantastic. The team members, like I can literally, even though we're far away, sometimes we call each other just to say, hey, if we want to talk, not just via email. We text each other. It still feels like, even though we're not in the office, like when we have our morning meeting, it's like we're all there together. I think that's really what helped our culture. Like we are a really great team, and I love those guys. Like it's awesome. I honestly can't wait to see them. I mean, I know when it's definitely should wait till it's safe and everything, but we're a very good tight-knit group. And I think that since we are a tight-knit group, we're able to help each other when it's needed. You know, if I can't figure out like a search or something, I can definitely rely on my team members to help me out.
I would say within Joulé, what I would boast about for our culture is the communication. You know, it was very tight before, because we were in the office and we would just kind of like, you know, shout over the little separators. But since we can't do that now, you know, we have multiple phone calls a day with each other. We're constantly on the phone. We're communicating through video in the mornings and sometimes even in the afternoon as a quick catch up. So I think as far as culture for us, the number one has been communication and over communication, just so that between us internally, and then that way we have as much information as possible to share with our client. And we're also encouraging them to over communicate because everything's changing so quickly, so we can get that information, you know, back internally in Joulé and then out to our candidates as well.
When the pandemic first hit, and oh my gosh, so hard in New York, New Jersey, can you share what your experience personally, like outside of work, just personally, how that affected you?
Yeah, I think amongst a lot of other people too, it was pretty scary, you know, because it was just all of a sudden the world came to a pause and schools were closing. You know, we were working remote, you know, it's just all these things were all happening at once. So I think probably the biggest thing for me was just a little bit of fear of just not knowing, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? And is this something short term that will just blow over in a couple of weeks, or is this something long term that we're going to be facing? But I think personally and professionally, you know, once I kind of got over that shock of what was actually happening and trying to really grasp what was happening, then it was going into the mode of like, okay, what do we need to do next? So for work, you know, it was really just, let's check in with our employees. Are they okay? Are they impacted at all? Can we provide any support? And that was really on the client side too. And then we just got to work. And, you know, I think just the biggest thing was just having the mindset of, we'll just take one day at a time. As things come up, we'll navigate through them. So, and that was both really personally and professionally.
And regards to your particular business unit, were there any new policies that were implemented, anything to protect employees, clients, contractors?
Sure. So our corporate support team, in particular human resources, they really did a phenomenal job of very quickly putting a plan in place, so that way as we were navigating through COVID related situations, we had a foundation we could quickly go to and resolve quickly.
Sure. So we had a lot of clients that very rapidly had to develop protocols for if a contractor called in sick, whereas before it would be something where it was simply just, all right, this person won't be coming in today. Now there had to be a lot of investigations into where that person was on site, who they were in contact with, how long they were in contact with them, what kind of PPE was worn while they were in contact and exposed to other employees. So several of our clients, we felt like we just kept peeling back layers and layers and layers of the onion just to make sure we got to the bottom of every single potential COVID-19 exposure risk and made sure every facet of it was deemed safe and okay for people to return back to work.
So I heard through the grapevine that Joulé has sourced a good 150 scientists and manufacturing personnel to support vaccine development over the last few months. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So one of our clients is developing a proprietary technology and also harnessing platforms from top companies in the life sciences to quickly develop a safe and effective vaccine for COVID-19.
I would say the Edison branch in particular, a big focus of what we've been working on COVID related has been these manufacturing rules where it's a client that's making a product to help in treating COVID, or companies that are making diagnostic test kits to get those test kits out the door to these testing centers. So, we've really seen a big influx of those jobs come through our branch. And, that's kind of another thing that we've worked these types of jobs before, but the volumes of the roles that have been coming in, it just really helped us look at what's our process and what can we do differently to make sure we're staying ahead of this and support our clients and employees the best way we can.
Can you tell us a little bit about what kinds of scientists they're looking for? Is it for clinical trials, for research, QA, just the actual development?
Yeah, sure. So they're doing a myriad of things. So we have scientists who are developing and validating processes to rapidly scale up manufacturing and distribution of vaccines. Then we're also really deeply entrenched within a lot of their quality organizations. So in both QA and QC, we're ensuring that the work that's being done is reliable, replicable, and compliant with FDA guidelines.
Wow, awesome.
Oh, and also we're hands-on in labs, actually growing the cell lines needed to manufacture vaccines. So we're working in their upstream processing groups to help grow the cells, and their downstream processing groups helping to purify and refine to get exactly the therapeutics they need.
Primarily, I did a lot of the manufacturing. Like, we work with a company, I think, that makes cough syrup for people who are going through, unfortunately, the disease. So I've been sourcing those type of operators and technicians and things like that.
What kind of background are you looking for when you're hiring for them?
They have, for this specific company, we're looking for people who have like compounding experience, tablet pressing, blending, granulation of products, actually manufacturing those type of products, tablet press and things like that.
Okay. In terms of education for the manufacturing side of it, what are they looking for? High school?
Just high school diploma, and they would love some exposure to it, but a high school diploma mainly.
I've actually been a little bit more on the clinical side myself. I've seen an uptick recently, which I'm excited about, in clinical trials that we're involved in that are either a treatment or a potential vaccine for COVID. So even though, I'm not the one administering the vaccine, I'm not on site, I still get to play a role in, a small role in trying to get our country back to normal and the world, by making some progress in the fight against COVID. So we've definitely seen an increase in clinical trials. We've also seen a lot of process development roles, because we're seeing a lot of clients pivot If they were doing something, maybe it was they were working on oncology, or maybe they were working even better if they were on infectious disease. They're just kind of pivoting toward how they can help in the fight to find, like I said, a treatment or a vaccine. So we've seen some diagnostic companies move from their, normal offering of testing to trying to develop a COVID test. We've seen some med device companies try to figure out, what they can do to help in the effort. So it's been really interesting to see our clients get creative for how they can, pivot to be helpful during this time.
So when you're looking for the candidates to fill these roles, what kind of backgrounds are you looking for?
Of course, we're looking for scientists and engineers that have really specific operational and tactical skills. So examples of that would be process validation, protein purification, mammalian cell culture. But we're also looking for people who have these really strategic, critical thinking skills that will allow them to thrive in an environment where there's a lot of rapidly changing things and conflicting priorities and stuff like that.
Okay, very cool. And in terms of education, I'm assuming these are PhD, master's type roles?
Yeah, so it really varies. Some candidates are recent graduates with biology degrees. Other people have PhDs in, biochemistry, molecular biology. We're seeing the whole spectrum of academic backgrounds and experience levels.
As far as backgrounds for candidates, we are really interested, obviously people that have infectious disease experience, especially in the clinical trials, that strong understanding of PPE and comfortability, that is important too. So we're really looking for that, somebody that has clinical trial experience and, truly understands the pace of clinical trials and understands the need for adaptability and flexibility, because as much as we want them to go quickly, and they are going quickly, you also have to be detail oriented as well. So, definitely looking for the skill set and for the technical piece, but also it's been really important to screen people that they, from a professional standpoint, can kind of be effective in that role, to be, like I said, flexible, adaptable, but also detail oriented. It's definitely a unique combination. You can't be too detail focused that you get caught up in the little things. But you need to have that piece. Then you also need to be able to kind of change as the plan changes, because science changes when we find new research. So what we find today could change the protocol tomorrow or next week. So you need to have that piece too.
So in terms of other ways that Joulé has been able to help, connecting the right people together, providing PPE, donating, sharing research, has there been anything else outside of like direct staffing that Joulé has been able to do?
Sure. I think, one of the things you mentioned was really PPE. Our clients that we work with, they're really great about making sure that anybody coming on board has the appropriate PPE to do the job. But in cases where maybe perhaps there was a shortage or anything additional needed, the safety of our employees is really the top priority. So we made sure if someone needed something, that we were there to provide that support to them.
One of the neat things about our organization is that we have these decades-long relationships with almost every player currently active in the COVID-19 space. So a lot of these companies or functional groups historically really have not interfaced with each other. For example, why would a biodefense contractor, a clinical packaging company, and a startup medical device company ever end up on a conference call together? So it's been neat because we've been able to provide these vital introductions that have bolstered collaboration and sped up timelines in different aspects of COVID-19 vaccine development.
So is there anything, before I let you go, that you'd like to share? Like, we just talked about all those scientists and stuff. Like, what about stuff like turnover or anything like that? Like, is there anything you'd like to share with us?
Yes, so in terms of turnover and stuff like that, we essentially provide contingent labor for a lot of our projects. So that is a skill set and type of employment that comes with a certain amount of expected turnover. I have been amazed at how low turnover has been through the projects we've been working on through the pandemic. I think everybody kind of knows the importance of their core mission. So retention has almost been like non-existent, which is great. I've loved that. And then one other thing I was thinking about that I had emailed to Mike was that really I've primarily just been talking about our one client who has been doing vaccine development, but we really are fighting COVID in kind of 3 core areas. Should I jump into them really quick too?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, perfect. So our clients that are fighting COVID-19 fall into 3 core buckets. Basically, the first is biotech companies that are developing and scaling up a diverse range of vaccine candidates. The second one are medical device companies that are kind of retrofitting and aligning their blood filtration products to support antibody therapies. And then the third are clinical packaging companies that are manufacturing all kinds of PPE, like gloves, masks, gowns, any kind of disposable used in a healthcare setting to ensure that our frontline workers are kept safe. So those are the 3 areas.
Wow.
It's been neat.
Yeah, for real. That is really cool. It's kind of awesome that you guys have had like your hands in everything around this.
It's
Very cool.
so it really has been neat. And especially with my husband being a dentist, it's nice to know that he's kind of a frontline healthcare worker. And it's nice that in some way I feel like the work that we're doing and that our scientists are doing are essentially impacting his health and safety.
You're keeping him safe.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully.
Yeah. So 2020 overall, awful year. But what is one good thing that's come out of this pandemic for you?
Well, I tell you, that's a great question, and it has been a really tough year for the world, right? I mean, you see all the memes, 2020, and you pick a picture of disaster, right? There have been a lot of positives, actually. Look, from a business standpoint, and we talk about this quite frequently, we feel very humbled and fortunate to be a part of the clinical and life science world because there is a lot of business here. You know, our unemployment is not at 10, 12, 15%. It's closer to like 2 and 3%. So there is a demand, you know, and we are, again, fortunate to be partnered with clients that are rapidly trying to get a vaccine to the market. So we're very, very busy. And if you look at one specific good thing, and this is something that we talk about a lot here, is that we can, we know our place in the chain of delivery, and we humbly accept that, but we are in a spot where we can, impact lives and the world, and the fact that we can work with organizations that are working on vaccines, among other things, and then normally it's, whether it's something to prolong someone's life who's been afflicted with a disease or, a terminal cancer, working on life-saving drugs. So we're really honored to be in that segment, and it's something that we don't take lightly. I'd like to say we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we take what we do very seriously, and that's been great. So there's been a lot of positives. As a leader, I learned that our team can work remotely phenomenally. I was really not a believer in that, and I learned that it can be done to a high level, And then really personally, there's been a little bit more time with the family, and that's something, and we talk about that at Joulé and System One. Family's the most important thing, so that's been really, really awesome. Feel a little guilty because there've been some really great things to come out of this. Get sympathetic with the world and the struggles that so many people are dealing with.
There's actually been quite a few positive things. For me, it's really forced me to just take a step back, again, professionally, personally, and look at, how I operate. And it's really kind of made me, open my eyes to the importance of making sure to, work intentionally and live my personal life intentionally and make sure that everything that we're doing, has meaning and it has impact and to myself and the others that, we're working towards helping. So, and I think too, for me, a big thing that's come out of this is just the awareness of support that I have around me. Again, personally and professionally, I think it's kind of everybody's really leaned into each other. And I just think this has really created a bigger sense of community. Maybe it was always there, but everybody just gets so caught up in the busyness of everything that it really was eye-opening to see. Like, it's amazing how these corporations that are just leaning into each other, like, how can we come together for the same cause? And even in my family life, like, just everybody kind of leaning in together to see how can we best support each other. So I would say hands down, that's been the most positive experience for me.
So I think I would have to say the best thing about 2020 is that I was able to get married, which is really exciting. We had plan after plan after plan because the pandemic has evolved over time, but we did eventually figure out a way to have, parents, siblings, and my grandmother, and everybody grouped by household, and everybody 6 feet apart, and is outside. So I'm really thankful that we were able to make it work. And I think from like an overarching perspective of what 2020, what I come out of it with is really just kind of, you just figure it out. You get things done. Even with new regulations or new requirements. I think it both in my personal life with my wedding and then also in professional life, going from being on the road to now I'm, driving my car to make sure it still runs, like just to make sure, just to keep the engine happy. I feel like just being able to, just you get it done, being able to move forward with the regulations you have and doing the best you can.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We will be doing a lot more of this, so stay tuned for the next one. And in the meantime, we'll be putting all of Joulé's contact information in the post content. Thanks guys.